Hello, CariCon Village. This is an opportunity for me to share some poetry with you. And since we are at a literary conference, I'm going to start with a poem about books. Open a book. Open a book and discover the world. Now go, explore, and learn the wondrous and marvelous things to behold, the excitement that most of us yearn. Yes, it's good to be able to leave our homes and land upon distant shores, but open a book and take a good look. In an instant, you'll be opening doors to places you thought unreachable, you never thought you could ever afford. Without money, it's hard to travel far, but in a book, you're never bored. Within its pages, your mind will soar to the endless bounds of space, to think, to dream, to imagine anew, all that one can embrace. So open a book and look to the stars. Man's thirst for knowledge goes on. We seek the light to understand life with each and every new dawn. I'm Juanita Merritt, and I'm actually the editor of this collection of poetry. It was written by my late brother, Damon Chandler. It's called Come Drink From My Cup, Musings of an East Harlem Poet. I'll tell you a little bit about him. He was an actor and a stand-up comic. He was also a Vietnam veteran who signed up when he was about 17 years old and ended up right in Vietnam and suffered a considerable amount of trauma related to that. And I believe he worked through a lot of the PTSD that he struggled with by writing poetry, by performance, by being on stage. I'm going to read for you what he says about his poetry. I hope you'll enjoy these poems. Like wine, life can be bittersweet. So come, drink from my cup. Take a small sip and swallow slowly. Let it trickle down deep into your soul. We were born in New York City. We grew up in the 50s and 60s. This is how he described it. A veritable smorgasbord of life situations and circumstances, from the very comedic to the most gut-wrenching. Growing up, he says, in that magnificent melting pot greatly influenced my life with all its quirks and foibles. I'd like to start by reading from the section that he has poems here that he actually developed as a part of his comedy routines. I'm going to make a suggestion that you might close your eyes as you're listening to me read and try to picture some of the circumstances that the poet speaks of. This one is called Never Say I Do If You Don't, and it's written for men. Ah, yes, the dating is over and your married life begins. You leave behind that little black book concealing all of your sins. Deidre, Vanessa, and Angelique. The names flash by nonstop. You had your fun. It's over and done. And you think your life's a flop. Deep inside, you know that's true. So why did you say I do? The second you did, your little ass slid into a bubbling bucket of stew. You weren't really ready to tie that knot, all the strings attached and tight. Marriage is never that perfect, where all the pieces will fit right. So come on now, get your feet on the ground. You've done that dirty deed. If you're feeling that low, then it's time to go. Married life, you really don't need. Sit your lady down, never mind her frown. It's time for truth, not lies. You've got to come clean. It's not that you're mean, but to end it all now is wise. Her time is just as precious as yours, and you turned out to be Mr. Wrong. So consider her feelings and let her be free in case Mr. Right comes along. And this is the companion piece. It's written for the ladies. Just because you're married. Just because you're married doesn't mean you give up fun. Doesn't mean you can't be sexy and wild and your life is over and done. Just because you're married doesn't mean excitement is out, that you shouldn't crave for passionate love. After all, what is living about? Get up and put your glad rags on. Go dining and boogie all night. Come back to your place and put on some lace. Get delicious for your husband's bite. Make him salivate, make his blood boil. Keep the man's interest at home. Don't give him a chance. Keep the man in a trance so his roving eyes don't roam. And should you give birth to his baby, it takes time to take off that weight. Whatever you do, please follow through. If you don't, you could lose your mate. I know that sounds rather shallow. Your husband should love you enough to tolerate and compensate, for you've put up with all of his stuff. But let's be real about this deal. At the gun, you shot out of the gate. You dressed to the nines and always looked fine, and were rarely ever late. But just because you're married, you've become sloppy and don't give a damn. You either forgot or figured, so what? I've already got my man. But you've got to keep the bedroom fresh. Every time should be like the first. You know what it took to get him, what it takes to quench his thirst. Marriage should be a long-term affair. Both partners have got to give. So just because you're married is no reason for you not to live. The honeymoon should be forever. At least do your best to make sure that your passion for love and life remains for you both as it did before. A word to the wise. On a more serious note, I'm going to read a little from America for Better or Worse. This poem is called Battlefield Citizen and expresses some of Damon's thoughts about serving his country as a Black man. You snatched us up from Africa. You brought us to your shores. You put us in chains and cotton and wrote new slavery laws. We worked the land. That was your plan. You took our blood and sweat. We gave and kept on giving, but we were never supposed to get. America, America, you fought for liberty. But tell me this, America, when will I ever be free? Old brand, old flag, old faithful. I guess you weren't including me. Wasn't I included at Boston Massacre when freedom was bright and truth had light and revolution was meant to be? Wasn't I included when you fought the Civil War? I charged with Teddy Roosevelt when he stormed the Cuban shore. Wasn't I included when you again picked up the gun? I fought the Germans hand to hand in far-off World War I. You called again after Pearl Harbor. We fought to be able to fight the enemies of our nation, for we truly had earned that right. Wasn't I included when you went up Pork Chop Hill? My body still sore, you demanded more of my blood to spill. And now, today, you've gone out of your way to find another spot to include me in, where the bullets are thick and the jungle is very hot. Yet, when war is over, I return home full of pride to enjoy the freedom I had fought for, only to be denied. Your American dream is but a nightmare filled with greed and deceit, a cesspool of lies in a clever disguise, where love has been replaced by hate. America, America, God shed his grace on thee. But you turned around, shoved me in the ground, and spit on democracy. And this final one I'm going to share is from the section on living and dying, which is another theme in a lot of Damon's poetry. Tell me now. Tell me that you love me now. Tell me before I die. Don't wait, because you might forget. Full of tears, you'll sit and cry. Don't buy me flowers, save your cash. I can't smell them when I'm dead. While I'm here, please show that you care and make me laugh instead. From birth, we're on the road to death. So make each moment last, 'cause time, the seconds, the minutes, the hours, the days and years quickly pass. So tell me before I close my eyes and people gather to say goodbye. Tell me you love me now. Tell me before I die. I've been sharing poetry from Come Drink from My Cup, the musings of an East Harlem poet. You can find this book in our CariCon bookshop. You can also find it at my website, jcolemanmerritt.com. That's 2 R's and 2 T's. Thanks so much for listening, and please enjoy the rest of your time with us here at CariCon.